Hey everybody, welcome to episode 67 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen Audi questions. On this episode, we talk about buying a tune from a dealer and a warranty is voided.
Matt via Facebook says, "Hello, I have a question. I recently did a second oil change on my MK7 R when I noticed something abnormal around the valve cover. My car is running APR Stage 1 high torque file, 6-speed manual."
Okay, so with this question, Matt actually sent us a picture of his valve cover. And if you take a look here, this is what the picture is. If you take a look at where the valve cover actually meets the cylinder head itself, it's much like the TSI engines of previous generations, where there is a sealant that goes around between where the top of the valve cover bolts to the cylinder head. It would also be the cam bridge and bearing assembly for all the camshafts themselves. What they use, and we talked about this in our video of our Project Mark V build, which I'll link to, here you can check that out. But when we built the top end of that engine, we discussed this specific thing. And basically what that is a anaerobic sealant, where basically that sealant only seals in the with the lack of air. And so what would happen is you would seal that on the valve cover where it meets, and it would actually create a seal in that section when there's no air available. The other parts that kind of ooze out around there would actually never really dry completely. They're always going to be a little bit wet. That's true for all of those models. It is a green sealant on the other models. This one appears to be actually kind of red in color. I'm not super familiar with that one, but that's definitely what is happening with that vehicle. So what you'll actually get is a lot of dirt and grime will kind of pick up on that because it's still moist, and that's what you're seeing in that. You actually can just wipe that off. It's not a big deal. On that Project Mark V, that's actually in the back right now, still kind of going through the process. All that green sealant is still wet on there as well in that sealing surface. So that's going to be pretty normal, and it will not dry anytime soon.
Rich via shopdap.com says, "Hello, I have a 2006 Passat 2.0T automatic. The engine started running rough the other morning and would not accelerate or shift properly. Basically, I would step on the gas and it would barely go and just rev up and not go or shift. I read all the forums I could find and replaced the following parts: engine coils, spark plugs, in-tank fuel pump, high-pressure fuel pump, and cam follower. Drove it again, I still have the same problem. Currently the EPC light is on, the check engine light, and the fault code of P2294 came up with my scan tool. Any ideas?" The ironic thing is it was running perfect before I took it to the VW dealer to have a new key programmed, and now it has this problem after.
All right, Rich, so you have fuel-related faults on an FSI engine. We've covered a lot of FSI-related fuel problems. We actually had somebody comment not that long ago saying that they would wish we never cover another one because they're tired of hearing about cam followers. Sounds like you went down the road of replacing the high-pressure fuel pump. I don't know if you checked the cam follower. That is always the starting point for an FSI. I have an article that I'll link to about FSI fuel issues. But the reason why I wanted to touch on this, obviously we have that info out there and we've covered that part plenty, is fuel pressure sensors. So there are two fuel pressure sensors in these systems, a high pressure sensor and a low pressure sensor. One of the low pressure sensor on the FSI is actually in the fuel rail, which would be under the intake manifold. The other fuel pressure sensor, which is the low pressure sensor, would be mounted to the side of the high pressure fuel pump. Those have both been known to have some issues. The low pressure one on the fuel pump is more common to have issues than the high pressure one, but they both could be an issue. So if you're going down the road of replacing things, I generally recommend diagnosing it. But if you're trying to just find items that could be the issue to replace, the low and high pressure sensor, which I will link to below, are also good options to look at for the next road to go for fuel pressure issues. Again, inspect that cam lobe and the follower to make sure they don't have any damage that could be causing that issue.
David Head via Facebook says, "After reading the owner's manual in MK7 GTI, it seems that VW is saying that changing your own oil will void your warranty. Shouldn't receipts of the parts used with date and mileage of the parts would be sufficient in the event of an engine warranty claim? If not, would an oil analysis for each oil change be of any help? I really don't want to spend $140 for a glorified oil change and tire rotation if I don't have to."
David, your assumptions are actually pretty accurate on this one. there is no way your warranty can be void for doing your own maintenance. That's not a requirement by any means. Obviously, it does need to be done properly and, as you said, documented. So in the circumstance, if you ever did have let's say an engine failure, turbo failure, that type of stuff, there may ask for maintenance records. They probably likely would. This was very common on 1.8Ts back in the day when they had oil sludging issues. They had a warranty extension on a lot of those cars, and what would happen is, to verify that it was applicable to that warranty extension, and when they were replacing a lot of things, it was a lot of stuff they did to cover that warranty extension. They would ask for oil change receipts. If you didn't have them, obviously you're going to run into some problems. But if you're documenting everything very clearly, obviously you're going to have purchases of maintenance stuff that kind of coincides with your dates that you're writing down, all that stuff. You shouldn't have any issues if you're documenting all that stuff properly. Having that that oil tested by Blackstone or anybody like that, I don't see any real value in it. I know it's not super expensive. It is probably another layer of documentation for that type of thing, but I would say it's generally unnecessary and not going to be required just to maintain your warranty on the vehicle. So hopefully that answered your question, and you can feel free to maintain your own vehicle.
Peter via shopdap.com says, "Thank you for taking your time to explain and share information. Looking forward to doing business with you soon for parts. Every car has its pros and cons. My question is, between the TSI and the TFSI models, which one would you proudly go for? Please don't say none."
All right, Peter, first, thank you so much, obviously, for considering us. We appreciate it very much. It means a lot to me. This question was asked on an article I wrote a long time ago about common problems. I think it was on TSI. I can't remember. We have two articles, TSI and FSI Common Problems. I will link to them in the description below where anybody who's not familiar can check them out. So the question is which one is better, TSI or FSI? He says TSI or TFSI, and there's a couple clarifications I want to make on this real quick before I dive into this. There are a couple different engines that are out there, but there are basically three major ones. There's the FSI, the TSI, and then the TFSI. The TFSI, and let me start by saying this. The FSI would be an engine that came from right around 2006 to about 2008 and a half. That's a split year for FSI engines. And they switched over to the TSI. The TSI would be found in every current model VW that has a 2-liter turbo, with the exception of the Mark 7. That it came from 2008 and a half until current model stuff, obviously excluding Mark 7 cars. And is a widely spread engine. The TFSI, or what I consider the TFSI, is a Audi engine, which would be a CAEB engine code, most commonly found in a lot of A4s, A5s, Q5s. There's a couple other models that I probably am missing. A6s had them in there. Some all-roads did. I think the current model all-roads have that. So Audi has TFSI on pretty much every engine cover from the FSI to the current TFSI or CAEB engines. So I pretty much only classify TSI and FSI as those VW engines. The other engines are kind of a separate engine that functions very differently than either the TSI or FSI engines themselves. So I kind of exclude the Audi engine, and I'm going to be basically touching on the FSI and TSI VW engines, which would be most commonly found in Volkswagen models. I'm probably going to get a lot of fire for this one. I completely expect it because this is going to be something that people are going to be pretty passionate about. But yeah, it's my opinion, so I'm going to share that with you. My opinion is the FSI is actually overall a better engine, and here's why. They both have their share of issues. TFSI most notably having issues around cam followers, cam follower wear, high pressure fuel pump issues relating to that cam follower, and kind of a few of other things, PCV valves and some other stuff that went along the way. TSIs are more commonly known for timing chain tensioner issues, water pump failures, intake manifolds, although FSI did have intake flat motor issues the same as the TSI. They also have PCV valve issues on TSIs and a lot of those same issues. And here's the main reason why I think the FSI overall is a better engine. When the FSI was canceled and replaced by a TSI, everybody thought, oh, timing chains, it's going to be awesome, less problems, no cam follower. I used a roller on the TSI engine, and everybody thought this was going to be the answer to issues that plagued the FSI engine. But the problem is, obviously, it's been replaced by other issues, and to me, they're much more scary and potentially catastrophic, most notably being that timing chain tensioner. That timing chain tensioner, if or when it fails, it's going to cost you a huge amount of money, way more than any camshaft or cam follower or anything like that. And especially for DIY people, the really only downside to FSI is checking your cam follower, which is not something that needs to happen every oil change. You're talking about probably every 15, maybe 20,000 miles for the average person. You should check your cam follower. If it seems to have wear, replace it and then kind of move on. The rest of it's going to be normal maintenance stuff. You know, there are some issues here and there, but overall it's going to be pretty solid. Now keep in mind, FSIs are much older now, so depending on how well they've been maintained for the years, that could obviously be a variable that is not taken into account when having this discussion about one versus the other. I'm talking about a one-to-one relationship where if you were to compare, let's say, two engines with 30,000 miles and the issues that they would have kind of along the way. So hopefully that answered your question. Obviously, everybody feel free to chime in the comments below how you feel about the TSI versus FSI engines, and feel free to check it out what you have to say about that.
Justin Kelly via Facebook says, Audi flagged my car due to the tune. Here's the deal. I bought my car new out of state, took it to the local dealer due to an odd noise totally unrelated to the tune or anything electronic. The service advisor was very interested in explaining that it was flagged I might not be able to get out any warranty work done. I know this is BS, as the tune would have to contribute directly to the fault that occurred. To add to this, I bought it new with an APR Stage 1 tune and was never told this would void my warranty. Furthermore, the local dealer is currently sitting at does the same APR tunes. This must mean it was flagged before I purchased it. If the motor blows or transmission, I'm concerned they will pull some shit and tell me it's not covered. This is complete BS in my mind. Any way to get this resolved ahead of time?
Okay, so Justin purchased a new, I think it's either an A3 or an S3. This was in one of the Facebook groups. And I grabbed this because I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation. I've covered stuff about this kind of subject in the past, but I thought this specific one was kind of interesting, as there are a lot more dealers who are getting into offering software to customers. And kind of the commentary, there's a lot of discussion in the comments of this post on that Facebook group that kind of maybe had some misinformation and a lot of that stuff. So I wanted to kind of go through it. So here's the deal. Car was purchased brand new, already had a tune on there and an intake. Justin apparently wasn't told anything about that it would void his warranty. I'm not clear about this. This is one thing I wasn't sure about, is it sounds like he's familiar with software and performance stuff, and so he probably was aware, possibly, I'm not sure, if that had warranty implications to go with it, and maybe they just didn't tell him about it, and that's why there is this confusion. Obviously, as we've talked about before, any software or anything added to a vehicle that did not come from the manufacturer and is not an approved accessory or add-on to the vehicle is not going to be covered under warranty, or it has potential to create issues. That's kind of real cut and dry, and what is going to be the situation. Now, obviously, given the circumstance, the car has already been flagged. Where that happened is kind of a big question mark. Did it happen at the dealer? You know, there's actually a scenario that could happen where the dealer who originally sold the car, their service department flagged the car because that's part of their process of when they flash cars. I don't really know. That's kind of a hard thing and almost irrelevant at this point because the car's already been flagged. I have heard something that flashing the car back to stock can potentially create a scenario. You'd probably have to contact Audi directly to see if that is an option. Obviously, you can contact them to, I would say, contact Audi customer care. I'll try to find their number, and you can give them a call. I'll link it in the description below to try to find that information for you. But that would be an option, to contact them, try to have the car flash back to stock to reinstate your warranty based on that information if that's really your concern, that you've been tricked. That would probably be the only route that you could go to actually potentially restore it. That's going to be a big question mark. I have no idea what that process is like, or even if it is a possibility. The other alternative is, obviously, a lot of people are saying that they should guarantee the warranty based on that. I think this is a big problem that a lot of dealers have who sell software, is a couple different things. A lot of times the people who are involved with selling cars that are the customer contact point, which would be salespeople. First of all, salespeople in general in dealerships have a high turnover. And because of that, they generally don't know the product they're selling nearly as well as what you would expect them to. That's kind of number one problem with this scenario. But those people don't even understand oftentimes the implications of the things that they're doing. So a lot of times, I know this from my past experience in dealerships, and us being one of the dealerships who brought tuning into dealers, one of the first few who was doing that. I have heard many salespeople make comments that I had to interject in front of and make sure that I clarified the scenario for customers to explain it properly. Because when you go into a dealership, if a dealer flashes your car, obviously there are a lot of concerns that get lifted from that, because a lot of dealers historically, previously, would blame everything that ever failed if a car was tuned on the tune, and then you would always have to go to a battle for every warranty claim on every car that ever had any software or anything done to it. What you get when you bring it to a dealer who is friendly with software or even sells software is going to be, they're going to cover everything they possibly can, except for some scenario where they can't. And this would be under that situation. Now, the fact that they didn't tell him about that, obviously, that's problematic, and I think is going to create some issues here. So going back to that dealer to discuss that with the scenario with them is going to be the first thing. You can't really get mad at the current dealer. Their situation is what it is. Even if they sell software, they have no way to cover warranty on your vehicle and just write a blank check. That's up to Audi to approve. Now, should they give you a hard time over it? No, they shouldn't. And it sounds like they're not. It sounds like you were just kind of being prepared for a potential situation, which sounds like it was probably handled not great, because I'm not sure why they would tell you that something might not be covered before they even knew what was going on. That would be my approach, is why would you have that discussion to create this scenario where you're now concerned about something that may not even be an issue at all. But it is something obviously you should be aware of, and again, we've covered it to death about that type of stuff. There was a lot of things talked about in that thread about Magnuson Moss Warranty Act. We have covered that in a video we did with a lemon law lawyer discussing all about that. I'll link it here where you can check that out. It's a really long video, really in-depth on the subject, and unless you really want to dive into it, I think it's about half hour, 35 minutes. You may not want to go down that road. So hopefully that answers your question. I mean, I know there's no scenario that's going to feel great about this situation. I think that if you were not prepared for potential warranty implications when buying that car, obviously you feel like you've been tricked. I don't think that was their dealer's intention. I think poor communication probably led you to this situation, and contacting them and Audi should be able to help you work it out. I know a lot of people are commenting about, like, it's illegal for them to do, an EPA and all this other stuff, and I mean, even if all that stuff is technically true, that's not the way to resolve this issue. The way to resolve it is contact the dealer you bought it from, contact Audi of America to see if flashing your car back to stock is going to solve your issue. Now, and I don't want to make sure that anybody who's in this situation, do not focus on the dealer flashing your car and try to get them in trouble with Audi. Audi's not going to be able to do anything for you to get them in trouble for doing this. All you can do is try to resolve it with the dealer and or Audi. If taking the software off the car will solve your problem. And I would focus on, if keeping your warranty is really important to you, then focus on doing the things you need to do to restore that if possible. So Hopefully that answers your question, and good luck with solving that problem. Thank you so much for watching episode 67 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. If you have any questions or comments about the questions answered in this show, be sure to leave in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like it.